We have some important breaking news in the NHL. The Clodfather, Claude Giroux, was remaining with the Ottawa Senators. Plus, we have some other signings as well, including Dante Fabbro, Ville Husso, and some others. Plus, we have another buyout in the NHL, and it's from the Seattle Kraken. We'll discuss all the details coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have some important signings, a buyout, and a contract termination as well to throw into today's news video. Let's get things started first with the big news out of the Ottawa Senators organization. They're bringing back Claude Giroux. The Clodfather himself has finally re-signed. We've been hearing for weeks that they've been haggling over the bonus structure. Well, they finally got that sorted out. He's not hitting the market on July 1st and will remain in his hometown. And to me, he gave his hometown a very nice hometown discount, just like we saw with Tavares in Toronto. So Claude Giroux signs a one-year bonus-laden deal. The salary is only $2 million, so that gives the Senators a lot of flexibility with their cap. Obviously, there's a lot of bonuses in here, but we'll get into those here in a second. But that still leaves the Senators in a very good salary cap situation. At this point, they still have over $8 million in cap space. They need to sign Levi Merilainen to be the backup goalie. He's only 22. He's not going to be overly expensive. I'm going to say that's going to come in somewhere around $1 million. Then they got to sign a couple of fourth liners. So you're probably looking at $1 million or less there. So in all honesty, they should have about $5 or $6 million, or at least probably closer to 5, maybe 4, depending on what else they do. In cap space that's unused. Now, they said they've made it clear. Some people are saying they're not going to be a cap team. They have an internal budget. That's not completely accurate. The way Michael Andlauer and Steve Staios put it is they didn't want to spend all the way to the cap so that they had flexibility in season. Last year, they had situations where they couldn't even call up players because they had no cap space, and they don't want to end up in that predicament. So it's not like they're kind of being cheap or anything like that. They just don't want to have that situation arise again and have some more flexibility. And clearly, Staios is confident he can put together a good roster to be as good or better than last year and not spend all the way to it, which is also nice to see. And they can have more room to add at the deadline and things like that. So $2 million salary, and he gets a bunch of bonuses, where he can earn another $2.5 million in total. So the total value of the contract, if he were to hit every bonus, is $4.5 million. That's $2 million less than he made last year at $6.5 million when he signed as a free agent 3 years ago. 6.5 times 3. But these bonuses, he's probably not going to hit them all, but he should be able to hit a good chunk of them. So there's a bunch of them are related to games played, and a bunch of them are related to team success. So there's a games played bonus at 20 games, 30 games, and 60 games, $250K a piece. So that could add up to $750,000. And then there's another one tied to games played and team result. If he plays at least 50 games and they make the playoffs, there's another $250. So based on last year's results for him and the team, that's $1 million in bonus money that should be very achievable. He plays at least 60 games. They make the playoffs. He makes an extra $1 million. So he goes from $2 million to $3 million. The rest of it is all tied to playoff success. They win the round 1, he gets $500K extra. They win round 2, they get another $250K. They win round 3, another $500K. And if they win the Stanley Cup, another $500K. All of those playoff bonuses are tied to him being in the lineup for at least 50% of those games. So ultimately, there's $1.75 million tied to playoff success and another $1.25 million tied to games played and making the playoffs. So in all honesty, pretty good chance instead of the $2 million, he'll end up making at least 3.25. And if they have any playoff success, it's going to go up from there. Obviously their goal is to have playoff success, so we'll have to wait and see. Last year was their first year in 8 years making the playoffs, and they lost in round 1. Their intention, of course, like all teams, is to be better and see if they can't get over that hump. So we'll see what they do. But at the end of the day, they don't mind having a little bit of a bonus overage here that might count towards next year if indeed the team has a deep playoff run. Obviously, at this point, we don't know that there's going to be a bonus overage, because if they have the capacity to absorb that into the end-of-year cap, then it might not even count towards next year. Kind of depends on what else they do. But at this point, like I said, they've got their lineup, their decor is set. They already traded for Jordan Spence. They've got their RFAs and Clevin and Matt and Paolo sign. They just need to sign Merilainen. The goaltenders will be set. He's like a young RFA, not going to cost a lot of money. And their top 9 is all sorted out. They just need a couple of fourth liners, unless they decide to dip into free agency. I don't know. There's been some linkage to a team or a player like Brock Besser. I don't know if they'll do that, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. They do have the capacity if they wanted to add another piece that they could do that. Some other news around the NHL today. The Anaheim Ducks signed goaltender Ville Husso to a 2-year deal at $2.2 million. This one was a little bit of a surprise, I'm not going to lie. The Ducks just traded John Gibson, but acquired Peter Mrazek. We know Lucas Dostal will likely, and I have no doubt, will be the starter next year. So why would you have 3 goaltenders on the books? Is Mrazek going to be flipped? Is Husso going to be signed and then traded? It just doesn't make sense to have that much money tied up in 3 goaltenders. So I'm not really quite sure what the Ducks and Pat Verbeek are doing here, but we'll see what happens with Ville Husso and Peter Mrazek. But right now, they've got a lot of money tied up in goaltending. The Columbus Blue Jackets have signed defenseman Dante Fabbro, of course, who they picked up last year off waivers from the Nashville Predators. Fabbro gets a very nice contract, 4-year deal, $4.125 million. That's a pretty good payday for Fabro. Certainly looks like they certainly intend to play him top 4 minutes. He was a good pickup after coming over from Nashville. He fell out of favor there, but he fit nicely with the Blue Jackets and kind of refound a good groove there. So I think this is a good contract for Columbus. Hopefully things continue to progress for Fabro and this works out. A few other signings as well. The Sharks have signed young goaltender Gabriel Carrier to a 1-year 2-way deal. The New York Islanders have also signed a pair of RFAs. Liam Foudy and Julian Gauthier both get 1-year 2-way contracts. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think Gauthier was going to be UFA had he made it there. But 1-year 2-way deals for those two guys. Liam Foudy, terrific skater. Gauthier is as well. They've been primarily American Hockey League players with I guess have enough experience that the team is comfortable using them as call-up options. We'll see if they can grow into a bigger role with them this year. Certainly seems like the Islanders are, you could say, somewhat in the process of kind of retooling their roster a little bit. I'm not sure if their roles will change or not. We've also got word today that Conor Sheary and the Tampa Bay Lightning have mutually agreed to terminate his contract. So he is on what they call unconditional waivers. But like I said, that's not a buyout. That is for the purpose of a mutual contract termination. He was signed for 1 more year at $2 million. He apparently went to the Lightning instead because he was basically got stuck in the minors last year because of their cap situation. He could never really even be called up. So I think he's a little frustrated, thinks he can still play in the NHL, and said, listen, if you're not going to be able to get me into your NHL roster, let's terminate this contract. And obviously he's confident he can find another contract to kind of recoup that money that he's now not going to get paid from them. So Sheary will be a UFA officially as of tomorrow, which makes sense going into the July 1 free agent period. And Joe Veleno, who was just traded from the Chicago Blackhawks to the Seattle Kraken, the Burakovsky trade, is on unconditional waivers for the purpose of a contract buyout. Of course, we've seen it happen before. Sometimes it might not make sense to some people, but essentially, instead of the Kraken taking another contract from Chicago that they maybe didn't like or didn't think that was going to be useful to them, they said, okay, we'll absorb a small cap hit for you. Instead of you buying out Veleno, you trade him to us and we'll do it. And he's young enough that he's under the age of 26, so it's a 1/3 buyout. His contract had a year left on it at $2.275 million. So with a 1/3 buyout, that cap hit is going to save the Kraken $1.5 million this year, and they will have a small cap hit next year of $290,000. So obviously that leaves this year's cap hit for the Veleno contract just over $700K, just pretty close to what a league minimum contract would be. So it's a small buyout. It's kind of like basically if they would have taken a player from Chicago making league minimum, except they have a freed up roster spot. It's kind of the same concept we've seen times before where that type of strategy has been employed by other types of transactions. So that is all your news for now. There's also some speculation about the future of Alex Pietrangelo and the Vegas Golden Knights, and his playing career might be in jeopardy. But we're waiting for more concrete confidence on what that status is before we get into that. There will be another video, at least one more today, depending on what else goes on in the league. But there will be at least one more tonight, which will hopefully have a better grasp on that situation to discuss it further. So let me know your thoughts on this news down below in the comments. Of course, if you missed it earlier, we get into the story for this morning from the Elliot Friedman podcast, talking about how the Marner Vegas situation, that there could have been, or there's a lot of speculation there might be, the Leafs might be considering going after Vegas for tampering if he signs with them on July 1. And that's why that might be part of the reason why they're working on a trade ahead of time. Almost kind of borderline sounds like a little bit of extortion if you know what I'm saying. But it's an interesting story to follow. It's kind of a little bit of a bomb that Elliot dropped on everybody this morning, so we'll have to see where that goes. Haven't seen really any updates on it since he put that out this morning, but if you haven't checked out that video, go into a lot more detail, go check it out now, and I'll be back later with more news for you and all the rest of the speculation around the league and what we might see here in the next couple of days. It's still a very busy news period here around the NHL. Thanks very much for watching. I'll catch you next time.